A working smoke alarm is crucial for fire safety, giving you valuable time to escape during an emergency. That's the theme of this year's Fire Prevention Week, helping everyone ensure their alarms are working for them. Leigh Gruener, Public Education Officer with Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service, shares tips on fire alarms, safety plans, and ways to engage kids in life-saving steps. Let's get into it.
My name is Leigh Gruener, and I am the Public Education Officer for the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service. And job, I guess, is to go around the city of Winnipeg and to talk about fire safety in our community.
What are some of the most common causes of house fires and how can they be prevented?
The most common we find is cooking. We call it unattended cooking, meaning that, we're cooking away and then something happens to pull us away from the cooking event, the jet score, bomber score, whatever, our phone, either things. We walk away and we come back and there happens to be a fire in our kitchen. So that's one of the biggest ones. The second one where we see the most fire deaths is smoking. So people falling asleep perhaps when they're smoking, putting their cigarettes out in things that you shouldn't be putting them out, like not an ashtray, right? And in their potting plants, etc. And then them starting a fire. It has been common. I don't know if we had one this summer, but last summer we had quite a huge one in an apartment building.
Scary stuff.
Yeah. We just don't think about it, right? Like it's just something, I'm just going to put it out here in this dirt, not realizing that your potted plant is full of things that can burn or combustible, right?
What are some ways that we can prevent this? For newcomers coming in, they're buying a home, they're renting an apartment. What are some things that they can be doing? I mean, you're mentioning don't leave your cooking stuff unattended, or, when you're smoking, make sure you're putting it out properly. But what are some other ways we can help prevent these fires from happening in the first place?
Yeah, so the major thing, and what's our theme this week, is the smoke alarms, right? We have newcomers coming into the country, we have a bylaw that says that you have to have smoke alarms where you are. If you're a renter, the caretaker, landlord, whatever you call them, is in charge of maintaining the smoke alarms. Okay, so a lot of times people might think, it's their problem, but when you pay that rent, the caretaker or landlord is in charge of looking after those smoke alarms for you. If it's your own place, then you, of course, are the landlord, right? So you have to make sure that you're checking those smoke alarms. So it is required, need to have those smoke alarms in the house to alert you, right? Something has to alert you. When you're in a home, you don't have a fire alarm system like you might have in an apartment building. So you need to be alerted. So that's one thing that helps. So even if the fire does start, right, then you actually know about it because of the beeps that are occurring. The cooking, a lot of our newcomers, because depending on which country they've come from, we've seen people like cooking in garbage cans inside their apartment because they weren't familiar with, say, the stove. And as much as that sounds strange to us, that's just the way it is. So we're trying to educate. We try to get into those places and say, hey, listen, this is what this is used for. If something were to happen, this is what we want you to do. We want you to cover it up if you can, if it's a small fire, like with a lid. But if it's a large fire, don't hesitate. Get your family out and call 911 immediately. There's a lot of, I don't want to say fear, but a little bit of reticence to call 911 sometimes from people from different countries. They're worried that they might get in trouble. They're worried. The landlord sometimes told them that we're going to fine you if 911 has to come. And that's not accurate, right? We're here to help you. If you have a fire, please, 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 I can't be more clear than call 911 and get us to help you.
I'm guessing indoor barbecuing's probably not recommended as well.
Not recommended, right? No, and no propane is allowed inside. But we see barbecuing sometimes people in their garages. Again, scary for carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer, right? You can't smell it, see it, or taste it, and you could be overcome, like inside your garage, possible, or if you have an enclosed balcony, if you're doing it out there. So just be cautious of that. But yeah, most places have, if you're in an apartment building, say, they'll have rules if you can or cannot have a barbecue at all, even outside on the balcony. We encourage people, please do not bring those things inside, like for heating, if you're using them for heating or for cooking.
This time of year, people are getting their turkeys and everything ready, and these sort of things are incredibly important. Every year, there's always videos going around of people who try to deep fry their turkeys, and disaster ensues.
Yeah, the turkey fryers. Yeah, we see that a lot more in the United States than we do here, but we do have them here. And yeah, you have to be very cautious with those things. Like if you are choosing to use them, you need to use them definitely outside. You have to be watching them all the time. We actually have a little tip sheet on our website because it came from the United States and we bring it here. But you have to be careful with the oil and water, right? They don't mix. So if you do have a fire, what are you going to put it out with? How you're going to do it is you're going to call us, right? Immediately get your family away as far away as you can and call us and have us come put that out for you and take care of it.
Let's go a little bit more into these fire safety devices like smoke alarms. Depending on the size of your home, how many should you be having? Do you have to have one in each of your rooms? Like what sort of square footage are we looking at? And how often should we be like testing and looking to make sure it's operational?
Smoke alarms are required on every level of the home. So if you have a main floor and basement and an upstairs, one on every one is the basic recommendation. If you want to have more, we recommend putting them also in the bedrooms as well. I have teenagers who don't hear this alarm outside in the hallways, so I have them all in their bedrooms so that they can hear them themselves.
Smart,
or somebody
smart.
who's has difficulty hearing may need one in their bedrooms. But the basic requirement is one on every level of the home and outside each sleeping area. If you have a wing that has sleeping area, you have a huge square foot home, right? And you have a wing that has sleeping areas on this side, and then you have one that has them on this side, you'd have to have them outside every sleeping area. If you have a basement where you have sleeping area or bedroom, required as there as well. Okay. And the other one was you asked me about testing them. How did we have them? Great. We've gone into many homes where they have 5, 6, and then you go, hey, do they work? And you go and you test the button and there's nothing. Right. So it's simple as just pressing the button. This one has 2. It has a test button is the top one. You press the button, you hear the beeps and you know it's functioning. If you don't hear anything, this one is a special one. This is a newer one. So it's a 10-year lithium ion battery one. So I don't have to change the batteries for 10 years. But if yeah, it's nice, right? If I have one though with batteries, I change the batteries, right? I put new batteries in, I press the button, I hear the beep, beep, beep. I'm like, great, it works. But again, if you put in those new batteries and you heard nothing, right? You press the button and it's still nothing. This is probably an indication that your alarm is old and it's not working anymore. So we recommend changing at least every 10 years.
Let's go through that. So you want to make sure you have one on each level of your house or home, one outside of each sleeping area, and you want to make sure you're replacing those batteries, regularly. If it is one of those special ones, 10 years, but you should always be checking or replacing it within 10 years.
Correct. Yeah. And you can just press, like I said, just pressing the test button. If you get nothing, you know it's time to change it. And they do have dates on them. I don't know if you can see this. I've kind of highlighted, but there's a date here.
Okay.
The manufacturing date, and you go 10 years from that date. And some of them have stickers on them also here that say replace by, and then you kind of know when they need to be replaced. If you haven't been doing like regular checking, you just kind of think, oh yeah, I haven't tested that for a long time. That's an indication. You can just take a peek at those.
What about fire extinguishers? Should people have fire extinguishers, and how many should be within your home?
Fire extinguishers are not required. Here's one right here. Are they nice to have? Sure, they're nice to have. But you have to know how to use them, right? Like you can't just go buy one and then stick it under your sink in the kitchen and then forget about, you have this fire like, oh yeah, I forgot I have that extinguisher down there, right? Extinguishers always have their instructions on the front.
Okay.
So that's one thing you could do that, but I recommend doing that before the fire starts, right? You don't want to be sitting looking at the extinguisher while the fire is growing in front
exactly.
of you, right?
It's going, you're like, how do I do
Number
this thing?
one, right? Hold up. Right? Oh, I have to be 3 feet back, right? I got to move back. So, right, educate yourself beforehand on how to use it. Watch a video. There's tons online. They're quite simple, but if you have one, again, know how to use it. And they're only for small fires. Like this little guy here, it's a 2-pounder. This will only last maybe 5 seconds when I'm spraying it.
So this would be for, your oven fire or like your food start going up.
Yeah. And you have to be cautious, right? If you're cooking with grease and you spray this into it, it could actually spread the grease all over the place.
Spreads it all over the place.
Right? Which is why we always say try covering it first. If you weren't using grease, then of course, you could try this if you chose to. But again, if you're looking at it and you're like, holy, what do? I don't know how to use this. I'm freezing, and that happens because fire is scary and it grows really quickly. I might just get me out of the house. I close the door behind me and call 911 as fast as you can.
Let's talk about that fire escape plan. I know as a kid always talking about like figuring out your exits, making sure, you have your what's it called, a muster point or something
muster
like
point,
that?
meeting place, whatever you want to call it. Yes. Definitely that's part of it, right? The first part is the smoke alarm. You hear it. What am I doing? Right? If you have a family, this often comes up when I speak to moms groups, like you have 4 kids. Are you going to get the kids or am I going to get the kids? Are you getting 2 or am I getting 2, right? Having these conversations ahead of time so that you know what to do and that your children know what to do, because the worst thing is for them to get up and be like running around the house going, what am I supposed to know? Calling mom, dad, auntie, uncle, whatever the case may be.
And they go somewhere and you don't know where they are then.
Exactly. Yeah. And some of them will just go hide, one. Or if they do go outside, they might not go to that specified meeting place if you haven't made one. So the crews will roll up, the fire trucks, and we'll ask the family where some of them are standing outside. Hey, is everybody outside right now? They're like, no, like we're missing whoever, our son or whatnot. And meanwhile, maybe your son is inside, but maybe he's outside in the backyard, right? Because he didn't know he had to come around to the front and go stand by the tree or by the mailbox or whatever meeting place you choose. So it's so important to have that discussion. It only takes a few minutes. Hey, you guys, if we have a fire, your job is to get outside, right? Go outside, meet by the tree. Mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, whoever you live with, or will join you out there once we've done. If you have a phone, if some of the kids have phones already, call 911 as soon as you get out there, but at least get outside to safety.
Well, in those situations, like you make sure everyone in your house is safe. But additionally, for the firefighters, for the people that are coming, you don't want to put them in unnecessary risk having to go inside of a burning building.
Yeah, it's, I can't describe the feeling when you come up and you hear we're missing somebody, not only for the family, but for us as well. We kind of go into high gear now. We're looking for whether it's a child or an adult or an animal, whatever it may be. You're kicking us up into high gear now. We're going into look. But if everybody's out there, everybody's safe, we're just worried now about putting the fire out. It's a whole different level, right? It's intense still, but it's a whole different level than having to look for somebody and possibly save someone's life.
What are the best ways to teach kids about fire safety? Because I know not every kid is receptive to like a parent talking to them and be like, these are the things. And I remember, as a kid myself, getting those like little cartoons or things like don't play with these, make sure this is unplugged and vice versa. So what are you finding now, like in 2024, is the best ways to engage with kids and educate them on fire safety and prevention?
Yeah. I personally like to do hands-on type stuff. So if you're talking to your kids, from 2 up or as long as they can start talking back to you, right? I like them to actually do it. Okay, we're going to do our fire escape plan. Let's practice it, right? Show them how to touch the door, how to go outside, time them, make it fun. Like, don't make it a scary event that's going to just traumatize them. Exactly, right? You don't want fire. Yes, it is scary, but if you know what to do, it's not as scary anymore, right? I know what I'm supposed to do. So if okay, this is what you're going to do. Hey, mom's going to time you today. Let's see if you can do it faster than you did last time, right? And we're going to get out to the tree and that kind of stuff. Take them into the kitchen and say, hey, I love that you're cooking with me, but if mom has to walk away, you have to walk away too, or you have to go sit on the chair over there, right? So we're not near anything. And if anything happens, you can call me or tell me, or just go outside to the meeting place, whatever that may be, right? Really engage with them, like show them what to do. So you're just not do this, do that. Like at school, you all went to elementary school, your teacher got you up, you be quiet, right? You get in a line, you walk outside and you take attendance. It's the same thing every time. So really, really enforce that with your kids, right? And don't give them too much to do. Like if you have a sibling and you're in a room with a sibling and you say, okay, your mom says, okay, you got to make sure you wake up Josh, if the alarm rings. Sometimes that can be a lot for somebody because if they can't wake up Josh, they're not sure what to do, right? Should I just leave? Do I have to stay with Josh, right? And make sure that he gets out. And that can be pretty detrimental at the end. So make sure they have really small things that's their job. I always like to say your only job is to get out, but different families have different plans. That's the reason why we discuss them ahead of time, depending on how many people are in that home. But make sure, again, Make it fun. Make it, it's a scary thing, but it can be fun to practice.
For families and their home, we've gone through several things like these safety devices, making a plan. Sometimes there are things within the home that you might not be thinking about that are fire risks. Are there home inspections or like online tools or things that people can utilize to make sure their home is safe?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if we have one on our website for homes, but the things to think about, a lot of things too that we have trouble with are electrical, right? Everything is plugged in, everything is charged nowadays. Important when you're buying electrical equipment, that you're making sure that it meets standards. Okay, so on the back, it'll have a standard. This one does not. I bought it at a dollar type store, so it's not, doesn't have all the safety features built into it. So if I take this home and I start plugging in, I go from a 2-prong, right? And I go back into 6 and I'm plugging in all kinds of things. These things can overheat and cause fires. And sometimes people don't realize that. Like you go, when you plug your phone in, sometimes you feel, oh, that's pretty hot. My phone's warming up quite a bit, right? But this thing will get hot. Kind of just put your hand by it, like, oh, maybe it's time to unplug a couple of these things, right? Consider your safety. A lot of people, we just buy stuff and we assume that it's always safe. But, if we do little things like putting 6 things in at once, that might not be the case. So I always say advocate for your own safety. Like just kind of be aware of what's going on. I know we're all busy and we have things to do, but be aware of what's going on in your home and like, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I shouldn't have 5 extension cords going to my television, right?
How many videos have we seen of people getting ready for Christmas or another holiday, and then they have their trees and lights and everything plugged into these extension cords, and all of a sudden, just like that, everything goes up in flames.
Every instruction tells you, do not, especially for the lights and things like that, you should only have a maximum of, it says how many strands of lights should be together. It's in the instructions, but we always think, that hasn't happened before. It's not going to happen again. But you really have to look. Like if you're using strands of lights, like look at your strands. Are there any cuts, nicks, or tears in them? You know what? Then it's time to not use that anymore.
Especially if you have pets. I know our cats chewed through the cables. I mean, luckily we were there, but if we weren't home and we had it plugged in.
Yep. And it just quickly like that, right? With your animals. And I also have an animal too. But so yeah, you just have to kind of pay attention. Are you unplugging those things while we're not home if we have animals and we know they chew things, right? Maybe we should be unplugging it at that time, right? Not storing things on our ovens on top of them in case the cat jumps by and
knocks it
turning
over.
handle.
Yep.
We've had that happen before. Yeah, like strange things can happen. It's odd, but and I don't want people to be paranoid, but I just want you to know like things can happen. So just like I said, pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah, having those plans, walking through those steps, making sure everyone within the household is prepared.
Exactly.
And I guess now, like this time of year, like with space heaters or other things that might be plugged in, I've seen videos of it be, a curtain or something gets a little too close.
Yeah, the space heaters, the rule about space heaters is 1 meter or 3 feet away from anything that can burn. So, and no extension cords for space heaters because they draw a lot of heat. So it should be directly into the wall outlet and then give them space. That's what we say. The saying is give them space, right? Like we know it's chilly. I have space heaters in my house too, but are they ones that if they get knocked over, they'll automatically turn off? That's a nice feature to have, right? Again, we're not keeping the kids or the animals, right, beside them, not watching it. Because kids, we know when you're cold and you get right up close to something, and you get your hands right in there. But you got to be careful. Some of those things throw out a lot of heat. So you have to pay attention again to where they are in the house and where everybody else in the house is. And yeah, if you go to sleep at night, away from your curtains, just like you said, and you might even want to turn it off at night if you have like an older, and some people keep a lot of older heaters, right, that don't have any safety protections in them.
Where can people go to find out more information about protecting themselves, fire prevention, and fire safety?
Yeah, so we have our website. It's winnipeg.ca/FPS, which means Fire Paramedic Service. So there's some things on there. We have, because of this week is Fire Prevention Week. Almost forgot, right? Fire Prevention Week. It's so busy. We're just doing things. You're welcome. Please come to the open houses on Saturday. They're from noon to 4 at 26 of the fire. We have 27 stations, but one is being rebuilt right now. So 26 stations are open on Saturday from noon to 4 to come in and yes, meet the firefighters and the paramedics and see the vehicles and talk a little bit about fire safety with them, or just ask them about their jobs. Like, people love to do that, and we like to have people come in and see us.
Have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.